All right, the next thing we want to think about is the competition. Remember that the 3 C's of pricing, there was your COGS, your competition, and your customer. You need to understand your COGS, that's your cost of goods sold. You need to understand your customer, but let's really focus in on our competition. What's the best way to understand the competition? What would you need to do? Who has an idea? What do you think? If you want to understand your competition, what's the best way to do it?
I guess just like researching, like, I don't know.
Yeah, research them, right? Get to know a little bit about them. Anybody play sports here? Anybody follow sports? Tennis, basketball, football? Football starts? No? Well, when you get ready to play sports, you need to know what your competition is doing, right? You need to have an idea what that competition is. Business is all about competitiveness as well. So you need to know what your competition is doing. There's a book, look it up. You can actually look up YouTube it's Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And it's a book on business. It's a book on battle strategy, but they use it in business. And he talks about, he was a Chinese general that came up with different scrolls to be successful in war. So we associate sometimes business with battle in war. And one of these scrolls that he talks about is knowing who your enemy is. If you know who your enemy is, you have a better chance of winning. Makes sense, right? And he talks about, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he says if you go into a battle and you know nothing of your enemy and nothing of yourself, your chances of winning are very small. But if you go into the battle and you know a little bit about yourself but nothing of your enemy, yeah, you have an okay chance of surviving. But if you go into a battle and you know things about your enemy and things about yourself, then you have a better success of succeeding because you have a bigger picture of what can go down. So you have an idea. So when we think about the competition, we want to do something called a SWOT analysis, right? Who remembers what SWOT stands for? Perfect, yes. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the one thing to think about this is a strength and a weakness are internal. So strengths and weaknesses are things that are internal to me. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Right? Like maybe I don't speak enough languages. Maybe I don't understand math. Maybe I can't build a boat if I'm in the boat business. Things like that. Those are weaknesses to me. Strengths are things that I do well. Digital marketing, communications. Those are strengths. Those are all internal. Opportunities and threats are external. So an opportunity and threat for me would be if teaching is no longer a thing, if we stop teaching, or if the environment shuts down. Like COVID could have been an opportunity or a threat. It's things that we can't see or can't predict or can't control that are outside of our realm of possibilities but could affect our business. Okay? Now, competition is always going to be a threat. So that's a common threat. We don't talk about that because that's always out there. But things that could change, like if COVID came back again, that could be an opportunity for some of us. It could be a threat to some of us. So we have to think about that. So those are more external. So the way to think about this would be, I want to, and I like to graph it out like this because I'll show you why it helps me plot things out a little differently. I want to do me first because it's always about me, right? I want to do me first. I want to understand what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. So there's maybe, I want to come up with 1, 2, or 3 of each. Then I want to decide what my opportunities and threats are. 1, 2, and 3 again. So now what are my opportunities and threats? And then sort of write them down, either a word or a sentence, whatever it may be. And now I know, because I'm evaluating myself, my company, my product, my service, now I know what I'm doing and what I'm seeing and where I'm going. Now let's take this another level. Let's look at our competitors. And I like to do competitor 1, competitor 2, and competitor 3. And I do the same thing for them. Right? So that I fill in all the boxes. So now I take competitor 1, and when I look at 3 competitors, normally 3 competitors is a good number because you can get the biggest one, you can get the local one, the smallest one, and you get a good balance. Sometimes you can only do 1, that's fine, but I like to try to get 2 or 3 there. And now I know what the strength of competitor 1 is. I know what the weakness of competitor 2 is, right? And if I know what my strength is, do these things counter-interact? Can I beat my competition based on his weakness? That could be a spot that I could take advantage of. So that's why we map this out and we lay this out this way. We want to understand what all these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. So when you do that, you're able to identify opportunities for strategy. And that's the key. How do we create strategy based on what we see there? Maybe it's price, maybe it's place, maybe it's product promotion. All that's really important. And now we start putting out a little roadmap that we could take advantage of it. So when you do your SWOT analysis, you first want to do yourself. Pick 3 things that you do really well, 3 things that are weakness. When I say you, I mean your product or your service. What are your opportunities? What could happen in the world? Maybe we call this really the macro environment, the things that happen outside of our control. And the macro environment, just remember this word that I came up with is I slept, because you don't want to get caught sleeping, right? And the macro environment includes the internet, society, legal, economic, political, and technology. So, if any of those things change, which we don't have control over, if the internet, the way the internet is served up is changed, different, right? Maybe they shut us down, or they, change the service, whatever it is, or they change the protocol like they always do, that would affect our business. If society changes, we're going through societal changes now, right? That could affect our business. If the laws of the land change, that could affect our business. These are opportunities and threats. If the economic conditions change, right? Inflation, non-inflation, income levels, all that stuff, that could affect our business. If the politics of the land change, that could affect our business. If technology changes, we no longer need to use our phones to buy stuff. They say they're going to implant the phone in our brain soon. That would be pretty cool, right? I could dial up. I don't know how much more room I have in my brain, though. If technology changes, that could affect our business. So that's the macro part of it. That's external. That's the opportunities and threats. So how could all this change if there's opportunities and threats? I'll give you an industry example. The CBD industry, cannabis industry. There's a movement right now to change the classification of marijuana down to a lower level drug. Right now, it's not legal federally, but in some states you can buy marijuana and you can buy CBD products, things like that. Well, if the laws change, plus or minus, then that will change that entire business model. So you have to understand some of that, right? How we access the internet. If that changes, Elon Musk wants to give us all free internet. Then imagine that. You don't have to pay $100 a month anymore to AT&T. If that changes, then our whole business model could change, right? So what does that look like? what does that look like? So your SWOT analysis are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Your strengths and weaknesses are internal. Your opportunities and threats are external. They tie into this macro environment, the internet, society, legal, economic, political, and technology. And then you want to do that for yourself, and you want to do that for your 3 competitors to get a good gauge of what's happening. So that's sort of what we have to do for our outline and projects, okay? All right, one other quick point. What is a competitor? So if I'm a competitor, competition, right? Let's do this. I sell water. I sell water. What is my competitor? Any other water company, right? Okay. Any other water company. Is that it? Soda. Why? You could switch it. Exactly right. So you could drink it, right? It's a beverage. Okay, what else? Juice, right? Okay. Any beverage in general, right? Okay, I see. That's exactly right. Any beverage in general. Makes sense. Competition. So it doesn't have to be like competition. It could be a substitute for that same spend to fill that same need. Now let's say, let's get a little more complicated here. Let's say that this is all $1. Everything's $1. And let's say I have $1 to spend, and I go into a 7-Eleven. And you know when you go into a 7-Eleven, they have all the waters and sodas and stuff. They have everything all lined up. Everything's $1. But right next to that, they have another display. And in the other display, they have a whole display of M&Ms. And it's $1. And right next to the M&Ms display, they have a whole display of like Dorito chips. And it's $1. I'm saying, well, I got $1 to spend. What am I going to do? M&Ms, Doritos, soda, or water? Now, if you eat healthy, obviously you know the answer to that question. But I don't eat healthy. So I decide to spend $1 on M&Ms, right? Now, are the M&Ms competition to water in that case? They are, because they're taking that extra $1, right? They're taking that $1 spend. So it's not like competition, but they're competitive for that $1. That's that disposable $1. So you could spend that $1 on anything. That's what that disposable spend is. So if you have $1, you could buy water, soda, juice, any beverage. You could buy M&Ms, you could buy Doritos, whatever it may be. So you're up against that competitive $1 too. That's what you have to think about when you think about how people are spending their money as well, as what are they spending money on. You buy that fancy dinner, or do you buy those basketball tickets? Yeah, I don't know, it's $50. I might want to go to a basketball game, skip the dinner. So that's that disposable spending money, okay? All right, so think about that when you think about your competition as well.